A sterile hospital room is filled with the rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor. Suddenly, Jin Woo's eyes snap open as if a bolt of lightning hit his mind. He gazes at his trembling hands, realizing 3 years of his life have vanished in a coma. The world he knew is gone, replaced by a reality merged with the Battle of Summoners game. People now walk the streets with summoned creatures as if it were perfectly normal. Jin Woo soon returns home, his mind racing with the mechanics of a game he once cleared. A sharp chime rings out as a system notification appears directly in his field of vision. The system asks if he is ready to commence the tutorial after his long recovery. He realizes that while he was asleep, his knowledge of hidden exploits became his greatest weapon. He makes his way to an isolated park, away from prying eyes, to start his journey. 2 basic summoning scrolls appear in his inventory as a reward for waking up. He knows these low-rank scrolls usually only produce weak F-rank fodder. Taking a deep breath, he grips the first scroll and prepares to tear it open. He prays for even a semi-decent summon to help him survive the upcoming trial. The paper tears, releasing a sudden and violent eruption of blue electricity. Jin Woo stumbles back as the air around him begins to swirl in a powerful vortex. From the center of the storm, a small glowing silhouette begins to materialize. A system message flashes red across his vision. Warning, un-X rank, summon detected. He stares in silence as the light fades to reveal a tiny, beautiful fairy. The fairy stretches her wings and looks around with a confused but excited face. She spots Jin Woo and tilts her head, her eyes sparkling with recognition. Jin Woo recognizes her as a bugged character that was supposed to be deleted from the game. He whispers her name, Ramba, wondering if she truly remembers him. The fairy's face turns bright red as she realizes who is standing before her. She lets out a squeal and flies at high speed, hugging Jin Woo's cheek with all her might. Jin Woo is taken aback, as summons in this world are not supposed to have such free will. He pulls her back gently, realizing she is an X rank because she was once his private exploit. Ramba explains that she was trapped in a void ever since the developers patched her out. She mentions there are at least 9 others like her, all bugged summons from his old account. A realization hits him: he is the only person on Earth who can pull these forbidden summons. He instructs Ramba that she must never speak like this in front of other humans. If the world finds out he possesses bugged X-rank creatures, he will be hunted by everyone. Suddenly, the ground begins to vibrate with a low, ominous rumble. The system announces that the tutorial dungeon is activating at his location. A massive shadow looms from the rift, the first true threat of this new world. Although he has cleared thousands of dungeons in the game, his physical heart is pounding. He orders Ramba to prepare for battle, her tiny body glowing with green mana. Jin Woo steps forward, the holographic shield of a player manifesting around him. This is the start of his climb to the throne he once held. But as the portal closes, a pair of glowing red eyes watches him from the deepest shadows. The glowing red eyes in the shadows flicker before vanishing into the dark mist of the dungeon entrance. Jin Woo turns away from the mystery and steps firmly into the designated tutorial zone. Floating holographic screens immediately populate his vision with detailed environmental stats. He recognizes the layout instantly as the level 1 proving grounds from his past life as a top ranker. Tiny Ramba flutters around his head, her translucent wings shedding sparkling emerald dust. A low growl echoes through the corridor, vibrating against the stone floor. Jin Woo knows the first encounter is designed to weed out those who panic under pressure. He opens the summoning menu to check Ramba's specific tutorial exclusive buffs. The skill Wind's Guidance increases his movement speed by 400% in enclosed spaces. 3 shadow wolves leap from the darkness with bared fangs and glowing eyes. Jin Woo moves like a blur, sidestepping the first wolf with impossible fluidity. He strikes the second wolf's temple with the butt of his staff, utilizing the momentum of the wind. Ramba giggles while firing tiny needles of compressed air at the remaining monsters. The wolves dissolve into black pixels, leaving behind a few copper coins on the ground. He realizes that the X-rank modifier makes even the simplest skills incredibly broken. They reach the center of the tutorial, a massive circular chamber with a high vaulted ceiling. In the center of the room, a massive gray wolf stands 3 meters tall with fur like iron needles. This is the tutorial boss, a monster that usually requires a party of 5 players to defeat. Jin Woo checks his timer, seeing that he has exactly 4 minutes to break the record. The gray wolf lets out a deafening howl that sends a shockwave through the room. Jin Woo commands Ramba to cast Gale Armor to protect him from the sonic blast. He knows the wolf's weakness is its belly, but it never exposes it during standard combat. He utilizes a game bug he discovered years ago involving the room's hanging chains. He swings across the arena, baiting the wolf to jump up and catch him. As the wolf reaches the apex of its jump, its soft underbelly is completely exposed. Jinwoo releases the chain and drops onto the beast's chest, with his staff pointed downward. Ramba adds an explosion of wind energy to the tip of his weapon just before impact. The impact creates a massive crater in the stone floor as both man and monster land. A golden notification screen flashes, new tutorial record established 0142. Ramba does a victory dance on Jinwoo's shoulder, throwing magical confetti. He harvests the wolf's heart, a rare crafting material that shouldn't drop in a tutorial. He realizes his X rank, summoning luck also influences the drop rates of defeated enemies. With the boss defeated, the exit portal opens, leading back to the Association Hall. He wonders how the world will react to a F-rank player breaking a national record. He adjusts his jacket and steps through the light, Ramba vanishing into his soul space. He emerges into a room full of shocked association officials and staring players. A large scoreboard on the wall shows his name at the very top in flashing red letters. A tall man in a sharp black suit approaches him with an intense, narrow-eyed gaze. This man is Park Chang-ok, the feared director of the Summoners Association. But just as Park is about to speak, the emergency sirens of the building begin to wail. A rift suddenly tears open in the center of the lobby, leaking a dark, corrosive energy. It isn't a dungeon, it is a forced mana eruption occurring right in the heart of the city. Something much more dangerous than a tutorial wolf is trying to crawl its way through. The shadowy portal within the tutorial dungeon flickered with an unstable violet energy. Jinwoo gripped his novice dagger tighter as a low growl echoed from the void. Suddenly the system interface pinged loudly, announcing the official closure of the tutorial gate. He stepped through the threshold, leaving the damp darkness of the dungeon behind him. Outside, the city of Seoul had been transformed into a sprawling metropolis of magic and technology. Massive floating screens displayed the current rankings of the world's top summoners. A familiar voice called out his name from the crowded sidewalk nearby. Ajin rushed forward and threw her arms around her brother in a fierce hug. She pulled back to inspect him, checking for any hidden injuries from the tutorial. Jinwoo assured her that he had cleared the dungeon with ease, thanks to his hidden skills. As they walked, Jinwoo noticed a group of players equipped with legendary tier armor. The cost of such equipment was astronomical, far beyond what any normal person could afford. He opened his inventory to check his current balance, which sat at a pitiful 0 gold. Ajin pointed out a nearby vending machine that sold basic mana potions for a small fortune. Jinwoo realized that to survive as a player, he would have to master the art of the free-to-play grind. The player zone was divided into districts, each catering to different levels of wealth and power. Most players were stuck in the Bronze District, struggling just to pay their daily mana taxes. Jinwoo knew his X-rank summon Ramba was his secret weapon to bypass this economic barrier. Ramba suddenly manifested on his shoulder, tugging curiously at his ear. Ajin gasped, never having seen a summon so small yet radiating such intense energy. Jinwoo quickly shushed her, warning that showing off such a rare summon could attract unwanted attention. In this new world, powerful summons were often stolen or forcibly recruited by mega guilds. They decided to visit the local library to research the current state of the game world's economy. Inside, Jinwoo began scrolling through digital archives at a lightning pace. He discovered that many trash items from the original game were now considered valuable crafting materials. A wicked smile touched his lips as he realized he could corner the market on these overlooked resources. Ajin eventually fell asleep on a pile of books, exhausted from the long day. Jinwoo draped his jacket over her shoulders, his gaze softening for a brief moment. He stayed up through the night, drafting a plan to exploit the game's hidden mechanics. The weekday dungeons were the key to his rapid growth and capital accumulation. As the first rays of dawn hit the library windows, Jinwoo woke his sister. It was time to head to the Summoners Association to officially register his player status. Ajin worried that the registration test would be too difficult for someone who just woke from a coma. Jinwoo simply patted his pocket where Ramba was hiding, feeling completely prepared. The association building was a temple of glass and steel, guarded by high-level sentinels. Thousands of hopefuls crowded the lobby, all vying for a chance to become elite summoners. A group of wealthy teenagers pushed past Jinwoo, mocking his worn-out hospital shoes. Jin Woo ignored their taunts, his focus entirely on the registration terminal ahead. He noticed a commotion near the VIP elevator where several high-ranking officials were gathered. One of the officials looked frantic, holding a device that was flashing a crimson critical error warning. Jin Woo realized the building's security system was about to experience a catastrophic failure. Without warning, the heavy mana-dampening fields of the lobby began to spark and collapse. People began to scream as the automated defense golems turned their glowing eyes toward the crowd. Jin Woo stepped forward, realizing his chance to intervene and gain leverage had arrived much sooner than expected. But as he prepared to call Ramba, a massive explosion rocked the upper floors, and something dark began to descend. Dust and debris rained down as the ceiling of the Summoners Association lobby buckled under the force of the blast. Through the thick gray haze, Jin Woo shielded his sister Ajin while scanning the room for the source of the attack. He noticed a group of hooded figures emerging from the shadows, their hands glowing with malicious dark energy. A high-ranking official in a tailored suit fell to the ground as a dark spear whistled past his head. Jin Woo recognized the man as Park Chang-ok, the influential director of player affairs, who was known for his strict but fair policies. Realizing this was a golden opportunity to gain an elite contact, Jin Woo stepped forward and whispered the command to summon Ramba. The tiny wind fairy appeared in a swirl of leaves, stretching her arms and yawning, as if she had just woken up. Jin Woo pointed toward the assassins and ordered Ramba to use her gale force wall to protect the director. A violent gust of wind erupted instantly, forming a transparent jade barrier between the director and the incoming dark magic. Director Park looked up in bewilderment at the small fairy that had just saved his life. The assassins snarled and redirected their focus toward the unknown boy who dared to interfere. Jin Woo didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled a common-grade iron dagger from his inventory and held it in a reverse grip. He calculated their movement patterns, recognizing them as low-level mercenaries hired to do a messy job. With a sudden burst of speed, Jin Woo moved past the first attacker, his blade leaving a trail of sparks against their armor. He ordered Ramba to unleash her sleep powder, a skill that most players ignored but Jin Woo knew was effective against humans. The assassins coughed and stumbled as the golden dust filled their lungs, their movements becoming sluggish and heavy. Seizing the moment, Jin Woo delivered a series of precise strikes that incapacitated the attackers without killing them. Security teams finally burst into the room, their weapons drawn as they surrounded the unconscious mercenaries. Director Park stood up and brushed the dust from his suit, his gaze fixed intently on the young man standing before him. He thanked Jin Woo profusely, stating that the association owed him a great debt for his swift intervention. Jin Woo played it humble, mentioning that he was only there to apply for his player license after his long recovery. Park's eyes widened when he heard about the 3-year coma, realizing he was looking at the legendary fallen prodigy. Without hesitation, the director led Jin Woo through the secure back hallways toward the private testing chambers. He bypasses the usual long queues, ordering the staff to prepare an immediate evaluation for the man who saved him. Ajin watched from the observation deck, her hands clasped together as she prayed for her brother's success. The evaluation room was filled with state-of-the-art mana sensors and holographic targets for testing combat proficiency. Jin Woo took a deep breath, feeling the familiar hum of the game world's interface reacting to the sensors. The machines began to whirl, but instead of the usual power level readings, they flickered with strange error codes. Jin Woo's unique X-rank status was confusing the system, which was only designed to recognize standard ranks from F to S. To prove his worth manually, Jin Woo performed a series of advanced maneuvers that left the testing officers speechless. He demonstrated a level of mana control that exceeded even the most seasoned veteran players. Director Park watched the playback, nodding slowly as he realized that Jin Woo's physical stats were irrelevant compared to his tactical genius. Within minutes, the system processed the special entry and a golden card slid out of the terminal. Jin Woo picked up the card, which officially recognized him as a licensed summoner of the Republic. Director Park pulled him aside, warning him that the assassins were part of a larger conspiracy involving the Seven Stars Guild. He told Jin Woo to be careful, as a talented player without a guild was always a target for recruitment or elimination. Jin Woo thanked him for the warning and the license, feeling a sense of true progress for the first time since waking up. As he walked back to Ajin, he noticed a new notification blinking in the corner of his vision. The system announced that he had unlocked the Reputation Shop, a feature reserved for those who influenced major world events. With his license in hand and a powerful ally at his back, the path to reclaiming his throne was finally open. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jin Woo noticed a sleek black sedan following them from a distance. Inside the car, a woman with piercing red eyes watched Jin Woo's every move through a high-powered lens. Suddenly, Jin Woo's phone buzzed with an anonymous message containing only a time and a set of coordinates for a dungeon raid. The coordinates pointed to the Tuesday dungeon, a place known for its impossible difficulty and high death rate. He realized the Seven Stars Guild wasn't just watching him, they were inviting him into a trap he couldn't afford to ignore. Jin Woo stood before the shimmering gate of the Tuesday dungeon, feeling the weight of the Seven Stars Guild's trap still fresh in his mind. He adjusted his grip on his player license, knowing that this run would be the definitive proof of his hidden capabilities. The air rippled as he stepped through the threshold, transitioning from the city streets to a damp, sprawling labyrinth. He immediately summoned Ramba, the X-rank wind fairy, who manifested in a burst of green sparkles. Ramba spun around happily, her tiny wings buzzing with excitement at the prospect of a real battle. Next, Jin Woo called forth the hairy gorilla, its massive frame filling the narrow tunnel with a low, primal growl. Slime monsters began to ooze from the ceiling, their acidic bodies glowing with a sickly green light. Jin Woo didn't flinch as he remembered the layout of the maze from his thousands of hours in the game world. He pointed toward a hidden shortcut, commanding his summons to ignore the smaller mobs and rush the objective. Ramba cast her wind pressure buff, surrounding the gorilla with a swirling aura of high-speed air currents. The gorilla lunged forward like a projectile, smashing through a wall of slimes with a single, devastating punch. They reached the boss chamber in record time, where a giant slime king pulsated with malevolent energy. Jin Woo watched as the boss prepared a wide-area acid spray, his eyes tracing the telegraphing movements. He gave the signal for the gorilla to jump, timing the attack perfectly to avoid the corrosive blast. The gorilla descended like a meteor, crushing the Slime King's core with an impact that shook the entire dungeon. A golden system notification appeared in the air, flashing with the words, "New National Record." Jin Woo checked the time of 5 minutes and 30 seconds, considering it a bit slow for his standards. Meanwhile, at the Summoners Association, the monitoring room erupted into total chaos as the leaderboard updated. Park Chang-uk stared at the screen, his mouth hanging open as he saw an unregistered name at the #1 spot. He realized nobody had just beaten the record of the nation's top S-rank player by nearly a full minute. News of the record-breaking run spread through the player forums like wildfire, sparking endless speculation. Jin Woo walked out of the dungeon, only to find Yujia, the heiress of the Ubak agency, waiting for him. She leaned against her car, her sharp eyes scanning him with an intensity that suggested she knew his secret. She didn't offer pleasantries, instead placing a high-grade contract directly onto the hood of the vehicle. Jin Woo looked at the terms, noticing a profit split that was unheard of for a rookie player. Yujia explained that she wasn't just buying his skills, but his future as the world's first X-rank specialist. He saw the opportunity to gain the resources he needed to pull more bugged summons from the game's database. Without a word, he signed the digital document, solidifying the birth of the Ubak agency. Yujia's smile widened as she handed him a heavy briefcase containing 10,000 low-grade summoning scrolls. He returned to his small apartment, the sheer volume of scrolls promising a massive expansion of his roster. For 3 days straight, he ripped through the scrolls, discarding thousands of F-rank monsters. His hands trembled with fatigue, the luck-based system testing his resolve to the absolute limit. Suddenly, a flash of rainbow light illuminated the room, far brighter than any previous summon. Out of the light stepped a woman in flowing crimson robes, a staff topped with a dragon's eye in her hand. It was the Dragon Mage, another of his former bugged X-rank companions from his peak gaming days. Before he could even celebrate, a second scroll burst into a harsh metallic gold light. A grizzled warrior in reinforced armor manifested, holding a whistle and looking around with a stern gaze. The drill instructor had returned, completing the core team Jin Woo needed for his auto-battle strategies. He began explaining the new world to them, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't felt since his coma. However, as he looked at the news, he saw that the Seven Stars Guild had officially declared him a person of interest. A shadow moved across his window, faster than any human, signaling that the Watchers were no longer just observing. He realized that while he had built his agency, he had also painted a target on his back that no amount of money could hide. A message appeared on his private phone from an unknown number, stating that his sister was currently being protected by their scouts. Jin Woo grabbed his jacket, the piece of his new partnership shattered by the cold reality of guild warfare. He knew that the next 24 hours would determine if his agency would rise to glory or fall into a shallow grave. He stood on the balcony overlooking the neon-lit player zone, knowing the next 24 hours would determine if his agency would rise to glory or fall into a shallow grave. Jin Woo opened his inventory, the light from a dozen high-grade summoning scrolls reflecting in his eyes. He reached out to tear the first scroll, his heart racing with the familiar thrill of the gacha gamble. A massive eruption of crimson energy filled the room as the system announced the arrival of an X-rank entity. Emerging from the light was the Dragon Mage, her eyes glowing with ancient, destructive power. She bowed her head slightly, acknowledging Jin Woo as the only summoner worthy of her destructive spells. Without wasting a second, he activated the next series of scrolls, desperate to complete his strategic core. A stern, muscular figure materialized, his presence radiating an aura of absolute discipline and authority. The drill instructor barked an order that made even the Ramba the Wind Fairy stand at attention in fear. Jin Woo explained that with the instructor's training buffs, their overall combat efficiency would triple within days. For the next 48 hours, the apartment became a grueling training camp for his growing roster. He watched as his F-rank summons began to display movements and speeds that rivaled S-rank creatures. A notification from Yujia interrupted his thoughts, signaling that the Monday dungeon was finally open for the recording. He donned the sleek recording gear, preparing to show the world the true meaning of a speed clear. Yujia walked beside him, her presence calming the nervous energy of the camera crew trailing behind them. He stepped into the Monday dungeon, the cold, stagnant air of the undead realm washing over him. He immediately deployed his first team, positioning them on the high ground to maximize their line of sight. Thousands of skeletons began to crawl out of the earth, their hollow eyes glowing with malice. Jin Woo activated the auto-battle algorithm he had perfected during his gamer years, directing his summons with invisible threads. The Dragon Mage unleashed a torrent of fire that turned the entire first wave of undead into piles of ash. He utilized the combat aid's precision to pick off the skeleton archers before they could even draw their bows. The timer on his interface showed they were ahead of the national record by over 2 minutes already. The final boss, the Great Lich, rose from its throne of bone, casting a massive shadow over the party. Jin Woo ordered his priest summon to cast the Radiant Blessing, shattering the Lich's immunity shield in a burst of light. With one final coordinated strike, his summons obliterated the boss, ending the dungeon in record-breaking time. Outside, the association staff stared at their monitors in silence as the new record of 4 minutes appeared. Yujia checked her tablet, her smile widening as she realized their agency's value had just tripled. Jin Woo emerged from the portal, calmly wiping dust from his shoulder as if he hadn't just made history. He spent the following days repeating this feat across the Wednesday and Thursday dungeons, systematically dismantling every national record. In the Wednesday dungeon, he used a titanium golem to ferry his party across the icy debuff zones at high speed. The gorilla boss of the Frost Realm stood no chance against the Dragon Mage's concentrated flame dragon spell. By Thursday, the news of the nameless genius had spread to every corner of the country, sparking frantic debates. Jin Woo realized he needed more than just power. He needed to master the mechanics of movement and travel. He practiced riding the Sky Wyvern on a secluded rooftop, the wind whipping past his face at hundreds of miles per hour. He even learned to dive with a Sky Dolphin, discovering secret underwater tunnels that bypassed entire dungeon sections. Standing before the final Friday dungeon, he looked at his gathered X-rank companions, feeling a deep sense of connection. He realized that he wasn't just clearing games anymore, he was building a legacy that would protect his world. With the final record broken, he turned his gaze toward the Tower of Trials, the ultimate challenge looming on the horizon. He walked away from the association for the last time that week, the weight of his empty pockets replaced by the heavy burden of power. The throne was within reach, and this time, he wouldn't let anyone take it from him.